your flesh and blood.
Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, and be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, and we have a very special guest with us. I'm really excited to get into this with her because, well, she's going to change things in our lives and for the better, I guarantee you. Annie Guest is my guest. There you go. Annie Guest is my guest. She is also I'm going to use the term Renaissance woman. Why not? Because she has a variety of careers in book publishing, advertising, law. I better watch my P's and Q's here. Before she took another jump to work as a mental health therapist, and she's published her first book, Design for Your Mind. Annie, thank you so much for joining us here on the program. I'm looking forward to this.
Thank you for having me, Richard. I'm glad to be here.
This is going to be fun. I have always been intrigued by how the mind works. I didn't do so well in psychology class in college. I loved the subject. It fascinated the heck out of me, but I was a C student. There you go. For what that's worth. But design for your mind, I'm going to say implies that it is possible for us to, I'm going to use these terms and they're inaccurate, I know, but they're kind of fun to use. To sort of use feng shui inside here to rearrange things, to optimize our minds, to then go out and live our life's purpose, achieve the goals and dreams and desires and aspirations that we have, create the relationships and so on and so forth. How close am I? Hello? Are you kidding me? Hello?
You froze.
Okay. Tell you what we're going to do. Did you hear my question at all?
Not the actual question, but the lead up to the question.
Then the lead up to the question, or the question is, how close am I when I talk about using feng shui to rearrange the elements in our minds, to optimize our processes, if you will, to achieve the goals and aspirations, dreams and desires that we want? Am I close at all?
You're actually touching on exactly what I was doing. It wouldn't be just feng shui. It would be wabi sabi.
Okay, what is wabi sabi? We got to go along this path here.
It would be an ancient Chinese um, um, notion of design that values impermanence, imperfection, broken, brokenness.
Hmm.
And so, or it would be other elements of design that celebrate comfort. But it really, I didn't pursue what I was doing through those pathways
Hmm.
specifically. Although, as I was designing, I would notice that I was incorporating some of these ideas. That wasn't my focus. My focus was to achieve results for myself. My parents were elderly. My dad developed Parkinson's. My mom had problems with mobility, and eventually she developed dementia. And I lived next door, and I was the the adult child who was primarily responsible for taking care of them. Until we brought in people from outside to help with that, it really was me. And my parents were very resistant to bringing in people from outside. Um, but for years, I was performed that function. And then after they passed away, I was co-executor of the estate. And so my sister and I spent over a year cleaning out the house.
Mm.
All of this left me pretty drained, and I needed to find a way to rejuvenate myself, to find my spark again, so that I could go on with my own life.
Mm.
So I inherited the house from them, and after it was sufficiently cleaned out and title passed to me, I redesigned it in ways that I knew could rejuvenate me.
Mm. You know, there's a certain element of that I can relate to in terms of moving. A matter of fact, my wife and I are going to be moving. Don't know where yet, but our tenancy has been terminated. And by Labor Day, we will be living somewhere else, if not sooner. And I look at all of the stuff that we have. Now, it's less than we had when we were living in Phoenix, packed it up and put it into an 18-wheeler cab over moving van. And they charge you by weight. And we're talking, we moved 9,000 pounds of stuff. Now, one of those items was a piano, but I don't think this upright piano was that expensive. Was that heavy? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was 1,000 pounds. I don't. But I'm going through and looking, and I'm thinking, even as we're talking about, okay, the cabinet kitchens, both above and below the sink, and then all of the boxes I have in the studio, and the bookcases I have in the studio, and then the one we have in the living room, two that we have in the living room, the bed, the washer, the refrigerator and freezer, and the list goes on. And it's like, did we acquire more stuff?
Yeah.
But the same thing can be said as far as evaluating one's, well, I'll put it this way, one's mind.
Yes.
We're constantly taking stuff in. And there's one thing I don't like taking in, and that's the news. So I don't have a lot of that stuff that weighs my soul down. I put it that way. What's the process? So, first of all, design for your mind,
Yes.
not design your mind, but I suppose what is that implied? Design your mind.
Uh, Design, I would say the design to benefit your mind
Okay.
for.
So, um, rather than bulldoze and haul it away to the junkyard,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't really do up here.
Yeah.
Where do we start? How do we start?
It, it- um, you were invoking some of the concepts from other cultures.
Hmm.
Um, The Swedes have a concept called Swedish death cleaning. It's the idea that you it's a good idea to address your clutter now while you're still alive and still able to do that, than to leave it for your next of kin or whoever takes responsibility for cleaning out your house.
Mm.
But the benefits to us, those of us who engage in that process, are immediate. My parents, as they got older and developed their infirmities, weren't able to go through any kind of regular culling of things that they didn't use anymore.
Mhm.
And layers and layers of these things accumulated. I do not mean that they were hoarders, they were not.
Mhm.
But things that they no longer used and never would use were still in the house. And so the immediate process, after they passed away, was for my sister and me to sort through things, say books,
Mhm.
clothing, and put them in various sections of the house. The At the same time, the appraiser came through the property and evaluated things like furniture and silver, and gave it a monetary value each item. And each of us siblings had an allotment, an even sized allotment of the total.
Mm.
And then we went through a process with a series of conference calls, choosing items from the list, and counting them against our allotment. Whatever was left over was evaluated by the auctioneer, who took what he wanted, what he thought would sell at auction. But there was a large number of items that he didn't think would sell, and those items were eligible for us to donate, um, or to keep.
Mhm.
One category, large category of items that needed to be donated were wheelchairs, shower chairs, walkers, canes, unexpired medical supplies. Another was upholstered furniture, because the auctioneer wouldn't take it. He said upholstered furniture doesn't sell. So we were able to donate that. So I was doing a lot of research into the various categories, where you could send these items, where they would actually be used.
Mm. And I will tell you that the reason I'm coming the way I am is because I know that my mother went through that when my father passed a little over 2 years ago, and I'm sitting here thinking, oh man, I mean, I wish that I had actually physically been there at the time. Okay. But at the same time, it's like, my Lord, I really, I don't really want to have anything to do with that. It's so huge.
It's, it's
But,
huge.
but when you start thinking about it from the mental level, there's so much in our heads that we, we sure could get rid of. We sure could remove. And I know that that's easier said than done. I do, because we have a lot of different processes, and that's what you're sharing with us today is that process. It seems to me one of the early things that needs to be done is a sort of an evaluation of sorts,
Yes.
going down the checklist of what is it that I am holding on to that I could let go of because it's not serving me. And I'll use an example from my parents. Um, their their belief or their being a part of organized religion. There was I mean, we were all born and raised Catholic, but there came a point when my parents wanted nothing to do with organized religion because of what they saw as the damage that it kept doing to people. And I, of course, saw it too, working for a Christian radio station as well. I thought, no, I don't want any part of this stuff. Plus the fact that wonderful Will Rogers comment primarily about political parties. But if it's a group that wants me as a member, I don't want to be a part of their group. There's something wrong here. But he was being somewhat facetious because we're all part of the human race. I mean, we're all here as a community, and we really need to try to figure that out and so forth. But let's talk a little bit about that in terms of getting through. How about this way? Getting through the clutter. How do we?
Research. Okay, I'm sorry. Go on.
No. I just was. How do we do that?
Yes. Yeah. Research suggests that the reason clutter agitates us is that every object in that cluttered environment is competing for our attention. As a result, it becomes difficult to focus. I wanted to recharge and become productive again, go on with my life. In order to do that, I needed to focus. I needed to be able to create. I needed some sense of tranquility. So it was essential to clear the clutter in the environment. Caring for one's parents can bring a sense of loss of control over one's life. You don't have much control over your time or your social life or your sleep, your exercise. You never know when the next emergency will come.
Yeah.
And what I wanted dearly was to have a sense of control over my environment and my time again. But every time I looked at my environment, I was so overwhelmed by all these things competing for my attention that I couldn't focus. I'd feel exhausted before I even started to clean up. I didn't want to live like that.
Yeah. I have to say, there was a phrase that popped into my head. I say it facetiously when you say, I wanted to try to get control of my life. The response that came to my head was, good luck with that.
There are different degrees of lack of control. I mean,
Yeah.
there is a lack of control that can be debilitating.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying that my goal was to become rigid, but I wanted some sense of discipline so that I could actually function. One of the cool things research is also showing is that the very act of decluttering helps to bring some of the effect of a sense of control and lessening of anxiety. So you don't have to finish the job to get the benefits of the decluttering.
Can I ask you if this has any relationship then also to, because you're talking here about your parents.
Yeah.
My father, in the last days, he was diagnosed. As a matter of fact, I took him to the hospital 5 days before his passing. He was diagnosed with onset dementia and onset Parkinson's. He was gone in 5 days. And my feeling is there was no way in hell my dad was going to stay here with those conditions. It was bad enough that he walked around like a question mark and a cane, but I don't think he wanted to do that. But back to my question, does this also have anything to do with our our animal children, our pets, even though they don't have the same amount of, we'll call it stuff. Okay. They do have some because I still have the lunchbox filled with the cookies that we would give him. And I still have this, that, and the other thing as well. But does that relate at all, or is that a little different because you don't have the quite the same dynamic that you do with a parent or a sibling or a spouse or a friend, etc.?
Are you asking if we lose a sense of control when we're caring for our animals?
Yeah, and I can honestly say to that question that you're asking yourself is yes, because my dog Makushla, we kept her around for 14 months, putting diapers on, pee pads on and on and on and on until finally we got the message from her, okay, I'm ready to go. Whereas with my wife's protector and my best friend, dog friend, Angus, it's only been 2 weeks since we had to put him down, but
Oh,
we only kept him around until we recognized that he was just not having a good time. I mean, he snapped at us a couple of times. No harm, no foul. We understood, but we weren't going to go 14 months. That wasn't going to happen. And we finally let the king go. And we referred to him as that because when we first got him and we tried to pair him up with not for breeding, we managed to attain ownership of this purebred female shepherd, German shepherd. He wanted nothing to do with her. And one of
oh,
my intuitive guests
mhm.
clued into him, and he was saying, "No, I want to be the only one." Now, my dog Makushla raised him from 8 weeks. That was different. She was mama. But when we brought this other shepherd in, Bridget, no. So we found a home for her, and he became king of the manor. And when the king lost his ability to walk in terms of his hind legs, the dysplasia that breed gets,
Yeah.
we knew that the time was near. And I say this with all love for Angus, long live the king. We let him go 2 weeks ago.
I'm
And
sorry.
and then we get this termination of tenancy from our cottage that we're living in. Now we have to move. That's what I was referring to about moving. We don't know where we're going yet, but that's okay. I'm not sad. A little frustrated that I have something else to deal with, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm anticipatory, not expectant, but anticipatory. I'm excited about, oh, where are we going to move to? Could it be along the shores of Northern California, Washington, or Oregon, and so on and so on and so on? We'd love to move to Ireland, but I've also been given a clue that out of country is not yet for us, but out of state certainly is. In any event, so there are things of his that are still around.
Yeah,
Right? We haven't
yeah.
gotten rid of.
Well, you're not, he died 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
he's still there in a manner of speaking.
of course he is. Now, may I ask you a question?
Yes.
How are you? Are you going to take your move as an occasion to declutter?
Oh, God, yes. Matter of fact, I'm going to contact the landlord
Uh-huh.
and I'm going to say, if you're terminating our tenancy, then you are going to provide us with one of those giant dumpsters that the local waste management, it's called Marburg,
Yeah.
provides
Yes.
so that we can start throwing stuff away. And we're going to pare down and pare down and pare down. And I even have to think about, okay, where are we moving to? Will I need to be doing lawn work? Do I keep my lawn equipment or do I get rid of it? And then do I sell it? Because there's a lot of stuff I don't want to put in the landfill. That's a concern of mine as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But I know there are ways. And so, yes, decluttering to get to that heart of the
Yeah.
matter.
Yeah.
We're going to do that
Yes.
because I know that we don't need to take 9,000 pounds somewhere else if that's what it was to weigh.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh. But I just mentioned that you may find therapeutic benefit in doing the decluttering even before you finish the job.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So it may lessen some of the anxiety that you're feeling after losing your boy.
Hmm. And I will tell you that when you mention him that way, the first thing that comes to my mind is when I would come home, or even sometimes during, while I'm at home, we'll go over and he'll run around in the yard when he was able to do so and so forth.
Yeah.
And he would come over, and the one thing I will never, ever forget is he would come over and he would lick my whole face. He would lick my beard, the whole thing. Loved it. Uh, didn't bother me. Dogs have fewer bacteria in their mouths than we do. We're more harmful to them than they are to us. But be that as it may, that's what I remember about his saying, "Hey, I love you. Hey, thanks for playing," and so on and
Oh,
so forth.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, no, please. We are grateful. This is another area we want to get into here in a little bit. Here is the gratitude aspect as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'm grateful that we were in his life, and more importantly, that he chose us to be in our lives. Because I'll tell you that one shepherd that we had, the female, her name, we named her Bridget.
Yes.
We could have sent him instead of her. Now, that would not have happened because he was my wife's protector.
Yeah.
So that wasn't going to happen. But I'm just saying, hey, you just never know. So I'm just ever grateful. Yes, shed tears and still do occasionally, and we still see him around the house. Or my wife says that she perceives him around the house, sometimes laying where he normally lays on a rug that he has never lain on because I replaced him. Walking across the floor in the living room, and so on and so forth. I'm sure my mother goes through that same thing with my father. I mean, they were married for almost 62 years. He almost made it to 92 years of age. Matter of fact, his birthday is coming up the 13th of August. And I think about it. My sister posted a picture of the various fathers within our family that have passed away, the fathers of either the husbands specifically. And they posted, and of course, responses were, "Hey, thanks for putting that up there." And I said, "Hey, I know you say you think about him daily. I constantly think about him, constantly talk to him, unlike when he was alive." So I'm not, and there's even a part of me that pops into my mind. Universe asking the questions, me being along for the ride. Maybe there's some stuff there that I need to declutter.
Yeah.
And yet there are parts of me that are going, no, that's of your loved one, whether it's your father or your dog Makushla or Angus or my elder sister, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes. Would it be useful to take pictures of some of the things that have memories, have significance to you,
And then let them go.
and then let the actual physical object go?
Oh yeah, we have his collar on this big 6-sided pillow that we bought for him, laying on the floor in the corner of the living room where we have the bed, where he used to lay.
Yeah.
And we have that there right now. We'll probably keep the collar, but we'll probably throw away the pillow.
Yes, yes.
And so,
And other items that have nothing to do with Angus.
right.
There may be some items that you don't actually have to physically keep in order to hold on to the memory. But if you take a picture of them, you can let them go.
Yeah. And I actually have a web page on my website, richarddugan.com/ I believe it's dogs, DOGS, where I took videos for weeks from the time we had him at 8 weeks until probably June or July of that year, showing he and Makushla running around and playing. And I've gone back and looked at those. I feel like this is a doggone therapy session here, ladies and gentlemen. But then again, I've often said, hey, this program is my therapy, along with my very special guest, who is Annie Guest. And she has a wonderful book. I hope that you will go check it out. Please do so. And it has to do with design for your mind as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, along with my very special guest, any guest. And design for your mind is about more than aspirational countertops. Is that right? Yeah, aspirational countertops. It's a story about how any of us can use interior design to help us find our voice and our strength and creativity, build community with other people, and IRL. I'll have to ask you about that, and recharge our lives. What's IRL? I'm going to say Ireland because that's what would click to me. What is
Yeah,
that? What is IRL?
that's because Ireland is your eventual dream, but
That's right.
IRL stands for in real life.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Very good. So, folks, if you could use a boost right now, stay with us. We're going to continue talking about design for your mind, how a family caregiver and mental health therapist renovated her home to recharge her life and didn't break the bank. And that's really important too. We don't want to do that. Actually, we should be able to flourish and fortify that bank by decluttering and getting rid of things and finding people who want them. But let me ask you, excuse me, let me ask you about that. When we moved from Phoenix, I had collected hundreds of books through interviews such as this.
Yeah.
And I managed to find a bookstore or two that was actually willing to buy them from me. Maybe pennies on the dollar, didn't matter. But at least I got a little scratch for it. And they got literally brand new books. Well, guess what? After 19 years here in Santa Barbara, I'm in the same situation.
Yeah.
I need to get rid of container after container after container of books. I don't want to throw them in the landfill.
Yeah.
I will tell you that if it comes down to it and I can't find a buyer, pennies on the dollar for them, I'll be going to the local public library and
Yes.
I'm going to say, these are yours. No, you don't have to buy them, but these are yours to share with your patrons.
Richard,
My gift.
Richard, you may find that your local high school has an annual book sale
Oh, it's a good
that
thing.
benefits the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah. Oh, that would be wonderful because the educational system we have needs
Yes.
all the help it can get, and so forth. I hate the criticisms that it gets.
Yes.
I was a product of it back in the '60s and '70s, or late '60s, early '70s. And when I went to college, I wanted to. It was junior college, and I actually, even though I got out of a semester of high school English by going to one semester of Spanish, should have stuck with English. I went to college and I took a couple of semesters of English and absolutely loved it. Um, all of that aside, this book, Design for Your Mind, was it that very outgrowth of the whole situation with your parents? Is that the catalyst, or was there something prior to that?
That was the
That
catalyst.
was it. Okay.
Yeah. Although, of course, there's always something prior to a catalyst.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I mean, there was a whole lifetime that built to what I was dealing with when my parents passed away. Um, can I tell you about some of the methods I did use in order to rejuvenate myself?
Absolutely.
I would use light colors on walls because a light color, just through a trick in the eye, a light color registers on the eye a little later than a dark color. If I'm expressing that correctly. The effect is that the mind thinks that the mind sees the wall as receding. Therefore, the room looks bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I do that? Because an effect of all those years of loss of control over my time, social life, sleep, etc., was that I felt trapped and a little burnt out. In order to rejuvenate myself, I needed to feel free again.
Mm.
That meant I was deliberately creating spaces that helped me feel unconfined. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yes.
If there was a room with a high ceiling, I would use a color that might be kind of a blue gray and paint the wall all the way to the ceiling to invite my eye to travel up as if I were looking at the sky, the infinite expanse of the sky. I did
Hmm.
that deliberately to feel that I could breathe again. I would stand in a doorway and I would deliberately extend the line of sight to the diagonal corner, put something interesting in that corner that would draw the eye, and put objects of different shapes and sizes and textures along that line of vision. But everything that the goal was to pull my eye into the corner so that I would feel the length of that room.
Hmm. Mm.
I would use wicker and natural wood in the rooms to ground me in a sense of natural fibers of the outdoors. But all of this was to feel like myself again.
Mm. That's something that if we find something like that that helps us in that regard, boy, what a blessing that is.
But back to clutter,
Yes.
absolutely depended on getting rid of the clutter. I
Hmm.
didn't want to block my line of sight or distract myself with a lot of objects competing for my attention with clutter. So it had to go. Everything had to be organized. Everything needed a place.
Yeah. Here's a weird thought. And I think I mentioned this earlier about dealing with 18 different wildfires over the 19 years we've been here. And yes, there
Wow.
were years then we had more than one, but we were only evacuated from one. And when we were evacuated, and there was a part of me that really felt this strongly. Oh, if only we could start over, let it burn. And then I don't have to deal with it. In other words, now somebody else or something else is taking charge. Now, I don't wish any ill will in any way, shape, or form, but it's one of those thoughts that you have. And I'm sure there have been people who have often thought, though they don't want to divorce their spouse, they wish that they would just disappear. I'll put it that way. They just disappear. My life would be so much better. And I thought about that with all of the stuff that we had at the time. And this was here in Santa Barbara. Because we never had those threats in Phoenix in the middle of town.
Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, and it didn't happen, of course, and we still had all of the stuff and so forth. And I am glad that it didn't happen. I mean, my goodness, because I've watched people's emotions, especially down in Los Angeles here back in January, as well as over the 19 years we've been here, and the fires, and then the people who've lost their homes and everything that was in them.
Yes. Yep.
Um, it's a whole different kind of grief, certainly.
Yes.
But at the same time, my thought was, what would be wrong with starting over?
Yes.
You know?
Yep. But fortunately,
Yeah.
your house doesn't have to slide over a cliff
No,
in a
no,
mud
no,
storm
no.
or be burned with cinder for you to do that.
That's true. You don't have to wait for that. You don't have to wait for that. Let me ask you about your early years in terms of your personal philosophy, in terms of how you raised and where you are today, especially specifically in light of, quite honestly, this I call it soul supporting activity
Yeah.
that we're talking about here in terms of design for your mind.
What's your question?
Where are you philosophically today as compared to when you were growing up, and how has this design for your mind and this whole process with dealing with your parents, how has this changed you? Where are you today philosophically?
I during my parents' final years, I found that I was capable of more patience than I knew.
Hmm.
Um, but another thing that struck me was that I found that I could hold sadness and joy in the same moment. I could accept the duality, and it I found that I was benefiting from the experience. I was valuing the experience of being that child, that adult child in this role, that my siblings weren't able to benefit from because they didn't have to come to the same understanding. Um, you can't see your parents going through this year after year and not find some way to experience health. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Um, but what it left me with was what psychologists call, or radical, the ability to engage in radical acceptance, to to recognize that you can't change something, but you can live with it. And it can even be the impetus for creativity or inspiration.
Mm.
Um, I brought that philosophy to the design of the house, actually, because it became almost second nature to me. Um, so when I would look at a room or look at the exterior of the house, my ambition was not to tear down walls or to erase traces of my parents. I would say, what is this feature? I didn't choose it, but I can see, if I look at it, I can see the beauty in it. And now I can design the room around it in order to celebrate it.
Mm.
And I did it in room after room. I don't know that I would have known to do that or how to do it if I hadn't had to wrestle with finding joy in the sadness.
Yeah. You know, I can relate to that. As sad as it was when my father passed, and I was actually writing a song for him before his passing, that he never heard in this life, in this world, but I shared it at the memorial. And what was so funny was I had Zoom recording the memorial and all of us kids getting up and saying our thing. And my older sister, Cecilia, she called me a few days earlier before I arrived in Phoenix and said, "Now, I need you to know that each one of us is only going to have 3 minutes because there are so many of us." We had 6 kids. Now, my eldest sister has already passed on. So there were 5 of us. But then there were nieces and there were other people that wanted to say a few words. Um, and she says, "Only 3 minutes." And I thought, okay, I've been in broadcasting a long time. I can write something and put it in 3 minute format. Which I did. I got up there. When I look back at the video, I was the loudest one. I was like, but then I'm thinking, okay, it's your career, it's what you do, so don't worry about it. But what was funny was she gave me 3 minutes, and that wasn't directed at me. It was for all of us. I was the only one that stuck to the 3 minutes, and it was okay. It was funny in a way. It was sort of ironic that the one son who has the verbiage and the verboseness is keeping it to 3 minutes, and everybody else went long. But I will tell you, it was great to hear what they had to say.
Yeah.
So it didn't bother me. It wasn't like I was offended in any way, and I made a joke out of it too. It was a great experience. And I think those are some of the things that we need to take a look at too as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan here along with Annie Guest. Annie Guest designsforyourmind.com. That's the website. A little long. We'll be linked to it. So don't worry about that. We'll be linked to it so you can find out more. Before we move forward, I want to ask you about this thing that's referred to here. What's the deal with this special edition? That sounds really cool.
Limited edition.
I'm sorry, limited edition.
Even cooler.
Yes, indeed. Tell us about it.
When I conceived this book, I wanted it to be this experience for the reader that would make the reader feel pampered and seen and heard and taken care of. And I wanted the best paper and the best everything. I mean, my choice of font and the size of the margins and every detail about the book was to nurture the reader, who I envisioned as caregivers tired at the end of the day. I decided after the original edition was published, which was very nice, that I wanted to have a special edition printed with just the paper that I wanted, just so that I could have all those details perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So that limited edition is available only on my website.
I think it's fantastic. Dennis Henson, he is the author of a book entitled Real Impact Daily Inspiration. He did the same thing, except the hardcover is the limited edition, but it's not limited. That's the hardcover, and the best paper and the best ink, and all he wanted it to be special.
Yes, that's exactly what I did. Exactly.
And I'm thinking that with my book Choices, 5 Steps for Life, I may do the same thing. Now, I have it published through Amazon and their K or KDP website.
Yes.
I know there's probably another website that I can go to take the same manuscript and say, make this a keepsake, if you will.
Yes. I have no complaints about the quality of the KDP version. It's very, very nice.
It is.
I just wanted to take this to the next level, and I found an excellent printer in Las Vegas who did this limited edition print run. Now, doesn't mean I can't go back and print more.
It's true.
Yeah, so it's not that limited. I'll decide the limit. It makes me happy.
And that's real important, folks. It's important to be happy. I'm telling you. Don't ignore that part. And then, of course, the other thing too is I'm just curious in this limited edition version.
Yeah.
Will you sign them?
If I'm asked to, I don't want to presume.
Okay, you don't presume that someone wants your signature in there.
If they ask, but I will not. That won't be my default assumption.
Here's to Buffy with love from Annie. Yeah. And then it gets passed on to Bruce. Wait a minute. Very, very cool. We're talking with Annie Guest and her book that we hope you'll get a copy of through the website. The book is entitled Design for Your Mind at AnnieGuestDesignForYourMind.com as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan with Annie Guest, and I am curious about the next element. I mean, we are talking about being a caregiver. That's part of it. That's only part of it. I realize, and yours is that experience.
Yes.
And then, of course, we've talked a little bit about the project I have ahead of my wife and I have ahead of us. And I honestly, I am. I'm actually looking forward to throwing stuff into that garbage bin, just having a grand time of just tossing everything and anything and everything.
Yeah. Did he say he'd give you a dumpster?
No, I haven't asked them yet.
Yeah.
I know they're not that expensive, even if I have to pay for it.
They're not. They're not. Oh, there's another really good resource. You may check to see if Vietnam Veterans picks up in your neighborhood.
Oh.
They will come to the door.
Right. There's also another organization. I think it's something along the lines of Dump the Junk, and they come with this big blue and green truck, and they will pick it all up and clear it out. You've probably seen the commercials.
Yeah.
Here, make this disappear, and it's gone.
Yes. But Vietnam Veterans will sell your things to benefit their programs.
Excellent.
So you just put them in boxes or the bags they give you, and they'll pick them up, and that would be a way to get rid of small items of furniture, clothing, books, if you want to go that route.
And we won't have to put them in the car trip after trip after trip. We don't have a truck anymore now. It's
much less a big 9,000 pounds worth of trucking. Yeah. Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
And by the way, that cost us $5,000. I think I mentioned that. Yeah. Tell me about it. But at the same time, we made the move. Unfortunately, and this was in hindsight, I would have had them put the piano in the house. I covered it with a tarp, put it up on bricks so that it wouldn't get stuck in the mud and get waterlogged. But eventually the tarp broke apart, and so there you go. But that's the thing, is that you don't want to leave stuff. And of course, I didn't know about the marine layer. It wasn't just rain; it was the marine layer that comes in here in Santa Barbara, and sometimes it drizzles. But again, it was covered with a tarp. Yeah, nah, forget about that. Hey, can I ask you about the memorial process and how that plays into the decluttering or the feng shui? I can honestly say of my father that after his passing, and I say this honestly, we have nothing left. We had nothing left unsaid. But I know there are a lot of people that maybe the memorial is the place. It's the best that you can do because the person's already gone. But what about the decluttering of those kinds of things? Or is that maybe left better, since you being a therapist and all, mental health therapist, maybe therapy is really where it should be done to release that stuff?
My mom was a musical prodigy. And at her funeral, I found a concert pianist who played a special recital of the songs that my mom used to play by ear. I mean, she was extraordinarily talented. So it would be concert pieces that concert pianists would work years on, that my mother would just sit down and play by ear. I mean, she was extraordinary.
Wow.
And that recital that took place after the funeral mass meant so much. I mean, I had a program that everybody could see, but it was the music that we all grew up listening to her play.
Oh, how wonderful. I have a memento of my father, and that is that I have 10 years ago, I interviewed them on this program. And I think that the most profound thing that my mother shared about the two of them, which my father certainly agreed with, she said, I support him in all his dreams and aspirations and desires and so forth, and he supports me in mine. But the most important thing she said was, I have his back and I know he has mine. And I get to go back and listen to his voice. And I have his harmonica that was made in Japan, which is very cool. I don't know how to play it yet, but I'm going to learn. And I do have a portion of his remains, his ashes. And I had a local glass blower make me a cobalt blue urn, clear urn that I taped his photograph to, and so on and so forth. And I have that. And my mother used to ask me when I told her about that, she says, well, when are you going to sprinkle them? And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I ever will, but it doesn't matter. But it's those memories of these people, well, people and animals too, but people that those are the kinds of things you don't want to get rid of. You don't want to declutter. And it would be really nice if those images that you took with the physical camera
Yeah.
could be downloaded and digitized. And maybe someday
Yeah.
they will. They'll get there, I guess.
Yeah. Yes. Because it would enable you to start over, at least in a less cluttered environment, but you would still hold on to the best of the
Yeah.
past.
Yeah, absolutely. What if you haven't already shared it with us, which means I'm asking a question you've already answered? What is the one thing, okay, physical thing that you will probably never part with that reminds you of your parents?
You've seen a copy of my book?
I have.
Okay. If you open the front cover, the first picture you see facing the title page is the lion chair.
Hmm.
That is the quintessential emblem of the family and the book. It was the chair that my grandparents brought back from China in the early 1900s when my grandfather was stationed there, or my great grandfather was stationed there,
Oh, wow.
and it was falling apart, and the bottom of it was hanging almost to the floor, and I always liked it when I was a child and we go to my grandmother's house, and it ended up in my parents' estate. My sister chose it in our conference call selection process, but a couple of weeks later, she decided there was something else she wanted, and she called me, and she made a trade, and the lion's share was mine.
Hmm.
And I found an upholsterer from the old country, from Yugoslavia, the old Yugoslavia, and the lion's share is so gorgeous now that it is the cover girl in at the front of the book.
Hmm.
So, and everybody now in the family wants it. My my niece goads my sister for having given it up, but it really is emblematic of something, of how we might feel that our lives are over, that our best is behind us, and with a little care and attention, we're a star.
Hmm. That is wonderful. Um, I think that for me, and it's not the harmonica. I have one of his belts with his belt buckle with a pair of boots on it. I have one of his vests, leather vests, but that isn't it. It's actually the interview.
Yes.
And it's not tangible, but yet that's it right there.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Um,
And that sounds like a powerful interview.
oh, I tell you,
Yeah.
and YouTube actually, when I had it when it was posted up on YouTube, it got blocked because of the songs that I used during certain segments. My parents, I asked them about friendship and the friends that they have, even that they've lost, and I used one of John Denver's songs, "Friends." Friend, I will remember you. I'll pray for you. I'll think of you. Um, and so, yeah, that it was a lot of fun to do. It was difficult to shift from son to interviewer. That was a challenge, but it was great to have that opportunity to talk with them. And my she'll be 91 this year in September, and she is still going strong. I mean, she still drives out to Florence, Arizona every so often to visit her sister and
Wow.
brother-in-law and nieces and nephews and so forth. She doesn't drive a lot, but she will go out there and so forth, to the point that I'm sitting here as I'm talking with you, as you're sharing what you're sharing with me, and I'm going, I need to find out how much an airplane ticket is from Burbank to Phoenix
Oh,
that my wife and I can take, even if it's just an overnighter.
yeah.
We would take the train from Santa Barbara. We won't fly out of, because if we fly out of Santa Barbara, I think it's going to be way too expensive. But if we fly out of Burbank, it'll be just fine, and it'll be just nice to do that. And then, of course, the dog no longer being there, we could do that because we can put out plenty of food for the cats. They won't starve, and it'll be good. And just to visit my mom, my sisters, even if it is, like I said, for a weekend, fly
Yeah.
out Saturday morning
Yes.
early, and then fly back late Saturday evening, and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sitting here going, okay, I'm going to do some designing here.
Good.
And I think now would be the time because when we move further north, which I'm pretty certain we will,
Yeah.
it'll be much more of a challenge. But I'll tell you the form of transportation I would much rather take. And unfortunately, it doesn't go all the way into Phoenix,
Yeah.
is the train.
I
Uh,
knew you were going to say that.
as
Me
opposed
too.
as
Me
opposed to a
too.
rowboat, you mean?
Oh,
I
oh.
would just love to take the train all
Yeah.
the way into Phoenix. They have train tracks that go into Phoenix, but they're not passenger train tracks. I have to get off at Gila Bend
Yeah.
and then take a bus.
Trains are
So,
so romantic.
oh,
They're magical.
my wife and I, we've even talked about this, about taking a couple of grand and buying train tickets to go from and these scenic tours that they have from one end of the country to the other. And
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I was watching a video of a guy who did that
Yes.
and
Don't,
absolutely loved it.
doesn't it stop in Chicago?
It probably does. I've
And
never
then you
been
have
to
to
Chicago.
get, yeah. Yep.
And yeah, so you train, you change trains, but you do it in the same station,
Yes.
just as
Yes.
if you were changing airplanes at the
Yes.
airport.
Yes.
That would be okay,
Yes.
would be wonderful. And then
I've always wanted to take a train across Canada.
that's another one we've talked about doing.
Yep.
What a beautiful country that is.
Yeah.
We did surprise my mother, or actually my parents, 2010, 11, something like that. And we just wanted to surprise them. It was in April that year. And so we flew in. My parents did not know, but my sister, I said, you guys have to keep this secret. And I know how we all like to talk. And they kept it secret. And we met them at our favorite Irish pub in downtown Phoenix. And we show up and there they are. And they're just eyes went wide like, wow. We're talking here with Annie Guest here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan with Any Guest, and Any Guest Design for Your Mind.com is the website. We hope that you'll get yourself a copy of Design for Your Mind. Hey, get the limited edition. I don't know how limited it is, but get the limited edition. There is a website that you can go to. I'm going to see if I can get there, but I want to thank you, Annie. The website is books2read.com/design for your mind. That's where you can get the limited edition. It's available now. And I want to thank you for sharing so much of yourself with us here on the program. It's just been great, and given us an insight into how we can do that both physically in our homes, but also mentally and emotionally too. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard.
I have three final questions that I ask all of my guests. I'm going to ask those of you in just a moment. But first, I want to thank you for listening to and watching Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. We're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We're here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., and we're streaming live at those times at richarddugan.com. And we're also podcasting on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. And guess what? We're on YouTube, as I mentioned earlier. I hope you'll subscribe and click notification. We also ask that if you can, go pick up a copy of Choices, 5 Steps for Life. It's available on Amazon as well. And there's a hardcover, paperback, and Kindle version. We also ask that if you can send us a tip, PayPal. We have that for your security as well as ours. Whatever you can send us, we would be gratefully appreciative so that we can continue to do what we're doing here. And no, I'm not going to play the game that the religious broadcasters on the station I worked for back in Phoenix in the 80s and 90s would say that if you don't send us money, we're going to go off the air. No, you send us what you can if you can. We'll take energetic support as well. So thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. And finally, we ask that you take some time to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. You might even hear the voices of those who have gone on before, who are kind of preparing things for you. They're designing things for you when you get there. So I hope that you'll spend some time doing that. With all of that being said, to our very special guest here on the program, the first of the 3 questions is, who is any guest?
A seeker, a survivor.
What gets you up in the morning?
Questions.
And finally, I'm going to go ahead and give it away. From the movie City Slickers, the question is, what was your best day?
Going to my college reunion.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you again for being a part of what we're doing here to try to literally change the world, to find those new ways of living, and to encourage people that there are choices, and we're giving you knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And we're so glad you were with us. And I thank you for being with us here on Tell Me Your Story. And until our next broadcast, podcast, video cast, love to Lal. Jeanette, I am still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I will see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for letting me be in your life. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.